can be only one blow pop, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
And I'm Blow Pop number 2.
Oh, we got blow
Wes.
pops today.
Yeah, we're taking advantage of children that go to sleep early. And we don't mean that in a
And Lee,
filthy way. We're talking about candy here.
we're rating their
We're
candy
taking
bag.
their candy, yes. Happy Halloween in
I
November.
believe it's called dad tax.
Huh.
So I'm taking out the dad tax, and we're sharing the profit.
Excellent. Well, sharing is caring. That's what I learned from the Care Bears.
Sharing is certainly caring. You've got a super blow pop though.
Yes.
It's like a little bit bigger than mine. Well, a lot of bit bigger than mine.
Well, we've heard that before.
Oh, touche. There you go. And that is the blueberry flavor?
It is indeed.
It's good. Or raspberry. Probably raspberry.
It's blue.
It's blue, right? I got a
Right.
strawberry flavored one. And you got the green apple, which is another good pick.
Yes. We're really stalling for time already.
Yep. Because we're talking about the Hulk.
Yes,
and
we
we're
are.
missing. We're one man down, but I already advertised this discussion.
Shocking that the Hulk expert had a death in the family / a sick child.
Yeah, sick child. But the thing is, this is one thing that I don't know if people realize that you and Bruce have in common. You and Bruce have a lot in common. Probably met you both within just a year or so. Bruce, maybe I knew about a year or two longer. Both Star Wars fans. Both were into wrestling.
We're
back in
both
the day.
filling host for Princes of the Universe.
Both filling hosts. But I mean, you both love the Hulk.
That's true.
And stuff like that. I mean, so you had a lot of y'all had a lot of things in common. And
We love the general public.
I don't know about that.
No?
No. Oh, if you mean what you would give to them, then yes, you
Blow pops.
You wanted to love them in a different way.
Yes.
Some of the audience.
Correct. Horizontally.
But anyway, you didn't love everyone,
No. There's not not enough love for everybody.
and that was one certain employee.
So.
Yeah, you want to move on from that?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay.
No need to go down
It's a
that
fun
path.
story, but you don't want me to tell it.
Nah.
No. Okay. It's not.
I'm better than that now.
No, you are.
Yeah,
you
I went
are.
through therapy. I've been through COVID.
But we can laugh about that now.
We can.
But
About
we can't tell the story.
About being just heathens and crass.
A little bit more meaner.
Yeah, a little bit.
I wouldn't say, well, I mean, crass in a way, but not in the way people are thinking right now. Just really mean.
Yeah.
Spirited, I
Yeah.
would say. Mean-spirited. There's a good word.
Yeah.
It's mean-spirited.
Yeah.
Which we've all had those times. We've all had those times. But you're both Hulk fans. And so we were thinking about other topics, and I don't remember how this came up. But some said, what about the Hulk? No, Bruce. I was talking to Bruce about it. And I was like, yeah. I said, because we were talking about comic books. And I said, well, you know what? Wes knows all these comic books too. Let's talk about the Hulk. He went, yeah, let's do it. And of course, Bruce didn't make it. So we're going to talk about, now I have a feeling that you and I talked about the TV show.
Yes.
I think we talked about it.
And Bruce talked about it on the She-Hulk episode.
Yes.
Which I do not agree with
Oh, go
y'all
ahead, please.
about the She-Hulk thing. I enjoyed it for the sake of it was much looser and shorter and much more in a bite-sized portion of a TV show, which I think is always missing from Marvel. It's a little too grand. I'm not saying y'all didn't make a lot of valid points because I thought everything was very self-contained. It was not one big story other than the story that they realized was going nowhere and they kind of shit-canned it in the end.
Yes.
But I did think that for a 22-minute show, but the CGI was very Sci-Fi Channel 2006.
I mean, beyond bad, beyond subpar, even for Marvel. I mean, that was like Daredevil.
Beyond subpar.
That was
for
like
Marvel.
Matt Damon Daredevil. No, what's the name? Not
Ben
Matt
Affleck.
Damon. Ben Affleck.
Close.
Sorry.
Maybe there is a Matt Damon Daredevil that's even worse.
But yes, it was bad.
I wonder how much
So-
of your mouth noises are going to come across on this podcast because it's kind of, what do they call that?
Yeah. What is that? With MSSR or something?
ASMR.
ASMR, where they're like,
Whisper.
and then they tap the mic and then suck on something or crunch on something.
Tap the mic and suck on something. Is that a podcast they need a co-host for?
All right. So anyway, let's move on then.
Okay.
The movies.
Yes.
So first off, let me just start with the TV movies from Bill Bixby's Hulk.
Okay.
What did you think about them?
Pretty terrible.
All right. I thought Thor was great.
I know you're a big fan of that
I
Thor.
love that Thor.
And I was not.
Okay. So
But I like funny Thor and Thor Love and Thunder, so I can understand why you liked funny Thor in 1989 on NBC.
and I told you I like Love and Thunder.
Why could they not get Lou Ferrigno a better wig on anything? His
I have no
wigs
idea.
are so bad.
I have no idea. But Lou Ferrigno was a great Hulk because they just spray painted a giant of a man.
Yes.
And to be honest, I was terrified of him. I was terrified of him. He looked big. He was bigger than everyone else. He looked like a brute. And it's weird. I know they can't do that today. They can't do that today. They have to use CGI because Hulk's got to be bigger than life.
Right.
But back then, having a huge muscle man portray the Hulk, like the way he did, his grimace, his bushy eyebrows, everything about him, big green, didn't matter. It was just scary. It was scary to look at, scary to see, and you believed he could lift a tank and throw it. You believed
and I think that, part of when we watch that now and Ferrigno's nose and his teeth are kind of very Neanderthal looking, but some of that late 70s, early 80s Hulk art, Hulk did have like a big bushy head of hair. And
That's what he
was
looked like,
drawn very different from the high and tight,
Modern-
crew cut
modern
type
Hulk
look
we have
that
now.
that he started off with Jack Kirby, and then eventually he kind of turned into that with the Peter David series, where they kind of streamlined it, and then he got the undercut when he became smart. But I know it's a lot of Hulk hair talk. But anyway, I do think that it lends itself to a certain amount of keeping with the comics for those shows, but the TV movies were what they were. It's very that Roger Corman Fantastic Four, like we're gonna put some money into this, but we're
Not too much.
not gonna put enough into it where we're gonna make much back.
So, what did you think about Ang Lee Hulk?
Disappointing.
Extremely
Very,
disappointing.
very grand. I enjoyed the fact that they delved into his dad's psyche, but I did not like the absorbing dad storyline. I didn't think the Hulk dog thing was good. I thought he was way too big. He was like Jurassic Park big.
They got the proportion off. They got the battles wrong. Him fighting three dogs. That's it. Uber dogs or whatever. It's not exciting. It's not thrilling.
Silly.
And it's silly. You're right.
Yeah, I thought that, and I know that it did fairly well at the time considering, but Ang Lee was coming off such a big thing with the other movie he had just done, Crouching Tiger.
Hidden Dragon, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was very much just like you walked out and you go, well, I got to see the Hulk and he did a lot of stuff, but man, he's just too damn big. Like, he looked like a house.
And the story was plotting. Who cares about Exorbitant? Who cares about what was going on?
I can see, like I said, I like the stuff with his dad because that's what they kind of delved into with the schizophrenic side of Banner in the, I guess, late 80s is when that started with the Peter David stuff. But, man, it was just disappointing. Like, I felt more disappointed in that than I did the Edward Norton. I didn't think the Edward Norton movie was all that great.
Really?
But
see, because I enjoyed that one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Out of the two, I think the Edward Norton version was better.
Yeah, I think
Partially because the Hulk looked a lot better.
the Hulk looked better. I thought he was a good Bruce Banner.
I did too. Very good.
I thought he did a great job for that because he's strong. I like that they picked someone scrawny.
Yeah.
Good. It should be someone scrawny and weakling.
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo is kind of the cool professor, but he's kind of got a little bit of muscle on him already. You know what I mean? He's not
Right.
bony thin. I like the bony thin egghead that Edward Norton was.
Yeah.
So the physique was good too. I was fine with Abomination, who has now finally come back, but Tim Roth is always a good villain.
Yeah.
He's always a good villain. General Ross. This is how the first movie should have been. General Ross is good foil for the Hulk.
Right.
And then for some reason, I don't remember, I think this is the reason they don't make any other Hulk movies, is because Edward Norton's still under contract to do the two. And they have to pay him out, and they don't want to.
I didn't think it was that. I thought it had something to do with the Universal rights fees. After 15 years, it expires because the last Hulk movie came out in 2008. And supposedly in 2023, which is right around the corner, those Universal fees, some legislation of that ceases to exist. Hence why they seem to be planning at this World War Hulk, Planet
With
Hulk,
Scar.
type storyline.
We didn't like the look of Scar in She-Hulk. We thought that was weak sauce.
Well, and I think that kind of goes back to everything with She-Hulk, other than, like you said, Daredevil looked great. The yellow costume looked good.
It did. That did look good.
And I thought Abomination looked good. I thought the Abomination
Mm-hmm.
with the big, like, winged ears type look
I don't
was
mind that
much
at all.
more classic.
I like that.
You
Yeah.
are really wearing this blow pop out, by the
Okay.
way.
But go ahead.
Anyway,
I told everyone we had blow pops. So.
yes, I know. It's very VR right now.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, yeah, I thought the Scar thing was. I wouldn't say it was terrible. I think I'd heard, all the rumors of why
Have you seen the
they
concept art, though,
introduced-
that they passed over?
No.
There's some pretty good concept art that they just passed over because they wanted a man bun on him, which, well, you're not Scar.
No, I'm not. I'm not even.
They had a long-haired Scar, like the warrior,
Right.
Roman gladiator warrior look that looked much better.
Yeah.
And I think fell in line with the comic book version of him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like some of that, when he was drawn, he has all this like wild hair. He almost looks like the Del Keown Pitt version of Hulk, which there's a crossover from that in the 90s. But that to me is with the art. And then Mike Deodato, I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
He drew Hulk a lot that same way. And then that Heroes Reborn Hulk had the long hair. So anyway, man, we're talking a lot about Hulk hair. Anyway.
This is a Hulk podcast.
Yes, for all 23 people that care. And
Go ahead.
but yeah, I think that the Scar thing, what I was going to say is they say that maybe the reason they introduced Scar into this is to kill him. And that is what's going to set Banner off to turn into the World War Hulk storyline rather than killing his wife on the other planet. It's a
Got
way
it.
they've already kind of shoehorned that idea in there.
I get it, but I really like Peter David's story about how he became Maestro.
Yeah,
and
I
stuff.
think that's a killer story.
Because now we're dipping into the comic books, so let's go. That was the one that Bruce made me read, because I'm not a Hulk fan.
Future Imperfect.
He said, you've got to read that, and you've got to read, because they kind of rebooted the storyline. They made Peter David end it, but Peter David gets the Hulk. He understands what makes the Hulk tick, what makes the Hulk interesting, and I was engaged the whole time. Of course, the story of the Maestro and everything was interesting. It's probably one of the top Hulk stories out there. Would you say?
I would think so. Definitely for the time, and it was a good pairing of really sharp comic book guys with George Perez art. Is just he's killer.
He's killing it. It's the perfect storm. That's the comic book everyone kind of goes back, holds on the pinnacle.
Right. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
the bar.
Yeah.
And that when they found out they were just canceling the line and going to restart at number 1 again, they let him do whatever he wants. So he started propelling the storyline toward Maestro, like having all these events happen.
Right.
Betty dies.
Right.
And then who's his friend?
Rick Jones.
He puts Rick Jones in. He gets mad at Rick Jones, hits him too hard, puts him in a wheelchair, just like in the picture. What's it called?
Future Imperfect.
Future Imperfect. And he starts going down that path. Now, I would have loved to have seen how that one would have gone, because at this point, go ahead and show us how he kills every single person in the Marvel universe. I mean, just go for it. And then do some sort little cheap time travel thing to fix it. But I would love to have seen it. And then when they restarted, and I wanted Bruce to talk about this, but when they restarted it, what did you think? The new number 1, do you remember it?
Well, Hulk has been restarted multiple times.
They went back to the big, green, dumb, rage-filled Hulk. Bruce hated it. He felt the character had digressed.
I agree with that.
And that after that, I know they said this too, not that they couldn't come out with great stories later on with the Hulk, but that was the point where he was like, that was the one time he was like, I don't want to get the Hulk. I don't want to read the Hulk. Because he said it was so good, and they ended Peter
I agree
David's
with that.
run.
When they pulled Peter David off the book, it
suffered.
Yeah, it definitely suffered. Yeah, and I'm not saying that he may have told all the Hulk stories he could tell at that point, but he's still doing stuff now. He's already done another Maestro book. He's got a Joe Fixit book coming out. So he's still vested in the character, and I know it's 25 years later, so yeah, I'm sure he's got newer ideas that maybe he's going to put a fresh paint of coat on, as they say in other podcasts. But I think that there's ideas for him to do. But yeah, I think when they restarted it, they've restarted a couple times. With Bruce not being here, we're going to keep referencing him.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the latest before the newest Hulk that got restarted again.
He doesn't like any of the new stuff right now.
He didn't like Immortal Hulk?
Well, I don't know the names. He just said the newer stuff is just, it's like they keep begging him not to buy the book, is what he said.
Well, and, I think that for us, it's hard for us to let go of what we were attached to emotionally.
Yes, but in comic books, you can have a good story still come out today.
It can, but I don't know how sustainable it is, because you have so many different ways. Like you've got to please a certain bigger audience now, and our demographic is definitely the comic collecting. But you've had a lot of people's like nieces and daughters on some of your other podcasts,
right?
And they could care less about this stuff. So the audience, the newer audience, I don't know if they can attract it. I don't think it exists for comics.
So, no, it doesn't. They're having a big problem trying to get because those kids, if they're reading comic books, they're reading manga.
Right. So I think that you do have to kind of go back and say, well, what are we going to do with these older characters? How can we add some depth to it? And not just retell the same story again and go, I read this 5 years ago, or I read this 10 years ago. But that's kind of the predicament, because you've got these legacy acts, just like in music, where they're kind of the last of the dinosaurs. When they go, what's left?
Right. Who replaces a Guns N' Roses?
Right. There's a reason why all of these comics companies have come and gone in 25 years, and what is the biggest thing from all that? Spawn? I mean, yeah, we've got Walking Dead. We've talked about that and things, but like a comic book character that's like a legacy character, is it Spawn?
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because no one else is that popular. I mean, Savage Dragon is still plugging along, but it's not.
Yeah.
It never achieved a big status.
Yeah, that was. Right, that was like the Abomination with one fin in the middle rather than two on the side.
So, let me ask this: who was the best writer? Was it Peter David, or were there other writers you think should get some credit too?
I mean, I definitely think for that time frame. I think that's what everybody kind of goes back to. But there's been people that have had good little runs here and there. Like I said, the Immortal Hulk run. The Planet Hulk, the World Hulk, all of that was pretty critically acclaimed.
Do you know who wrote that?
Greg Pak, I believe is his name.
Well, like in Daredevil, for instance, Frank Miller's run is brilliant.
Right.
And the moment Frank Miller ends his run and the next comic book picks up, it is garbage. I've read this. I used to have them. It starts off with Daredevil on a skateboard, showing cool kids he can do skateboarding tricks.
That definitely sounds like a storyline that jumped the shark, as you referenced in another podcast.
Right after Frank Miller, that's what we get. But then Bendis comes in and really shoots he probably did a better job than Miller did in a lot of ways. So you can have new creations, new writers coming in with fresh ideas that really hit. What about artists? Is there a particular artist that you're like, that was the person who drew the Hulk?
Well, I think McFarlane had a very good Hulk. I thought that when he drew the Gray Hulk and all of that, then that iconic Hulk with the Wolverine cover. Right. I mean, that art is really good. The Gary Frank, Peter David run was good. Del Keown was good.
Isn't how that Del Keown got the idea for? I mean, that Pit spawned from Hulk.
Yeah,
right?
all of that. Yeah, it's all kind of. That's why I said the scar look. Some of that art was very reminiscent of how he would draw it. Deodato drew it. But like even the 80s stuff, the Sal Buscema and all of that stuff, I think all of it is very good for its time. But I think that the modern Hulk is very reminiscent of almost the Silver Age, blocky-headed crew cut.
It's classic.
Right, yeah.
When you think of Hulk, that's the thing that everyone remembers.
Right, it's more monster looking.
Yeah, that's what he was for the longest, too.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this one. Best villain. Who is your favorite villain from the comic book? And then why, of course.
I think a lot of people are always going to say the leader, which is a good choice.
Brains versus brawn is always a good pick.
But and there's just a rogue.
Is he considered the Hulk's ultimate
I would
nemesis?
say so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've always, and I know this goes back to the Absorbing Dad. I think the Absorbing Man and Hulk storylines have always been good.
So there's been solid matchups there.
I've always enjoyed that.
Okay. Was there a crossover you enjoyed with the Hulk? Hulk versus Batman.
The Big Giant comic from the 80s.
I have that somewhere. I don't know where it is now since we moved.
Yeah, that was good. I bought that at Kmart on Louisville. Right before,
and then I like that that Batman outsmarted the Hulk to beat him.
Right.
Bat grenade and everything.
That Batman's a pretty smart guy.
Is there any other crossovers you enjoyed? I'm going to look up here to see if that Hulk magazine is here.
Yeah, I don't think it is, or I would see it by now because as gigantic it is. It's much bigger than this blow pop. But as far as a crossover, I think that's what's weird about the Hulk is, and I think that's part of what's lost its way in the movies. There's only so much of that Hulk and somebody else that works because the Hulk is already two characters. So if you add another character in there, because so much of the Hulk situation is wrapped up with Banner.
Well, he's got to fight bigger other monsters because he's big himself.
Right, but I think that a lot of the turmoil, the good Hulk storylines are around Banner.
And him trying to cure himself or going through Banner's problems.
I thought that's why I like the Immortal Hulk stuff so much was because it dealt into this real psychosis of all of these Hulks living with Banner because it's like different things that Banner just creates,
right? Because
of all the trauma. I thought.
Well, it's why Bill Bixby's series works so well because it's Hulk usually shows up at the end of all these things, and he's the big action. That's where you get the action at the end, and it was always great. But you stayed with the show because Bill Bixby, you hurt for him.
Yeah, Bill Bixby
sorry for him.
Did such a good as a sympathetic.
He was excellent. And
the first episode set the tone for that with the dream about his wife dying in the car and everything. So I thought, that's how you lay that.
If only his blood could have been infused with hers in 3 seconds, then.
Yeah, they sped that storyline up just a bit too fast.
But Going back to Bill Bixby, question for you: who played Bruce Banner the best? Was it Bill Bixby? Was it Edward Norton? It wasn't Eric, whatever his name is. Bana.
No, I think Bixby by far. Anybody that's
I
ever
would agree
seen
with
that. Yeah, and I know that we talk about old stuff and it's in our wheelhouse. But Bill Bixby was a really good actor. I'm not saying Eric Bana's not a good actor. I'm not saying
Edward Norton's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
But where Bruce Banner is smart, he's a weakling. He's a scrawny, because Bill Bixby looks like a guy you could push around too. He's smart, but you're not afraid of him. Edward Norton the same way, even though he can give a pretty mean look. Like he's got something up his sleeve. Maybe he knows jiu-jitsu. He's a little bit too fit.
Right.
Bill Bixby is the average man. And the average not that he was a pushover, but you weren't intimidated by him. And
right.
It was a perfect pick because the Hulk, you should be peeing your pants and running away from.
Correct.
And so that dichotomy between Bruce Banner and the Hulk, what they made him look like, just an average man. He wasn't fit and,
right.
because he's got muscles like the Hulk, but not as big as the Hulk.
Right. He was yeah.
He is just a normal guy, everyday guy, but a guy that's not intimidating.
And he's the opposite because he's so...
It made the catchphrase,
calm.
"You wouldn't like me when I'm angry."
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely carried on.
And people laugh at him because no one's scared of him, but you
Right.
wouldn't be either. I mean, he looks the part the best, and he acts it the best because his heart hurts when he thinks he has a home, when he thinks he's found a cure, when he thinks he's found the answer to what he can do for the rest of his life. The Hulk will always be there, and he'll have to move on. Because not for his sake, but for the sake of others.
Correct.
And then, of course, you got the nice piano music.
My goodness.
Still get you?
Too emotional. I don't need all that in my life.
We talked about this on another podcast. Your mom was really mean to you back in the day. Telling you that was it. He was all alone.
Yeah, she would tell me to wave at the screen, and I would go in my room and tear it up.
Yeah, it's sad though. But the credits would roll, and it'd just be him walking alone, hitchhiking or whatnot. And you're like, you just felt so bad for him at the end of every episode.
Right, very sympathetic. So when you have that kind of sympathetic character, you're kind of cheering him on. And I think that that's probably something that misses from the movie. Kind of like when Mark Ruffalo says, "I'm always angry in Avengers." Yeah, it's a good line, and he hulks out, but I don't think. It's not the anger side of it that makes him a sympathetic. It's
not the anger side that makes him relatable.
It's the traumatic side of why he, in the show, wanted to figure this out is because his wife died. He couldn't save her. So
it's a tragedy.
Right.
And it's an ongoing tragedy because he can never... It's the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He'll never be able to separate himself from the Hulk.
Yeah, and I just think that the new Marvel universe, as many great things as they've done... We just talked about, the latest Spider-Man again tonight on how well that was done. And that is just the ultimate. I really think out of all the major characters, they've probably dropped the ball on the Hulk the most. And maybe it is because it's tied up with Universal. And you can't make money with Universal and they don't want to play ball. Then you go, well, let's de-emphasize this character because we can't do anything with him. We have no creative control. Mm-hmm. So let's minimize him.
That's what they had to do, like side characters. I mean, he's been at the forefront in Avengers here and there. He got his little story with Scarlett Johansson. I can't remember, Black Widow.
Yeah, but I mean that's what it's nothing compelling.
That's true. But do you think they can make a compelling movie with him? I'm not so sure.
No, I agree. I almost think that the best thing for them to do is to do a show of a big storyline.
Like a regular Hulk show.
Right, but do a big storyline. They could do the World War Hulk storyline and maybe dip into the CGI a little bit more than they did for She-Hulk. But, I think that, again, there's a balance there they've got to find with a Hulk CGI versus...
Here's the thing: WandaVision CGI did not look like that.
Correct. I agree.
Hawkeye CGI. There's a ton of CGI that's gone through. I mean, even Moon Knight. We want to go recent. And the thing is, with She-Hulk, it's like, did you run out of money? Should you have waited? It's almost like you were watching
I wonder if they did that because they wanted it to look that way. Because it was
Why?
such a...
Because it takes you out of the storyline completely?
Maybe that's the aha moment that we're not getting. We're not getting the inside baseball joke.
That's for sure.
Is to make it very green screen, early 2000 type stuff.
I don't know. That's a bad move. I think that gets people
well, it definitely split their
product.
audience, and I don't think that... You know, and I think everything cannot be $1 billion movie.
I don't expect it to, but
kind of
WandaVision looked good. It looked movie quality.
And I almost wonder if the reason it works so well is because you didn't have these characters. You didn't really have Scarlet Witch and Vision on anything until now. But you have Hulk material from the 80s. So
Right.
you're dealing with something that has been around. It's like, well, what Batman is your favorite? Well, you can go to the 60s. And
It's not like you're writing the playbook on the superhero.
Right.
I get it.
Like, if there's one character, I guess you can get Wonder Woman from that era, who's been sustainable with live action, it was both of those in the 70s. So, you know, where do you pull that source material on what you want it to look like without it looking like Jurassic Park?
Right. Okay.
Where's Bruce when we need him?
He's at home with kids. But anyway, hey, folks, tell us what you think about the Hulk. Do you like him? Who's your favorite artist? Who's your favorite writer? Who's your favorite actor to
What
portray?
color of the Hulk is your favorite, and what Hulk hairstyle do you like? Because that was definitely discussed.
Hulk hairstyle. There you go.
I like the Hulk undercut. I kind of liked it when he was Smart Hulk with the undercut.
Okay, there you go. That's your favorite version.
Hulk smash.
Hulk smash. All right. We'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe. Suck on that blow pop.